Emily, so nice to meet you. Paul DeLuca here from Meritus Capital. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us today and come on our Growth Game podcast.
Oh, Paul, it's a pleasure to be here. I am so glad I got your attention. I must have been doing something right that day, so I will take it. Thank you.
Well, it sounds like the feelings are very much mutual. So great. Thank you so much. Well, Emily, I don't know how much you know about me. I'll start real quick with my background really quick, and then we can jump into yours in the staffing world. But I started out in staffing as a very young person. I was helping a family company and then helped really in the finance side of the house when I was just out of school. Helped to finance that business and grow it. And then I started my first business when I was in my 20s, was basically specialty staffing. Grew that. It was a small entrepreneurial firm. I ended up getting it to about 100 employees, but I financed that business with accounts receivable financing. And in about 1998, I said to myself, I love entrepreneurs and I love helping them grow. I've got to be the guy who's the finance guy and be the non-banker finance company. So that's why I sold my business and got into the finance business. And I've been doing it ever since, and I'm still at it. And I love it.
Well, and I heard you were just at Staffing World, which I missed
I
you
was.
at, but I heard you were a celebrity and got to catch up with everybody. I've always been ASA, but I need to get
Yep.
well, excuse me, SIA, but I need to
Yeah.
get more into ASA. So
Well, it's funny you say that. Like, over the years, you get stuck in a back office, right? Which definitely happened to me. And I ended up not getting out there for a number of years. But I used to go SIA and ASA for many years. And I missed SIA this year. But it's my new commitment as I grow my business to get back out there and get with people. As you can see, we're doing all this work to get out on social media and do our podcasts. And so next year, I'll get to buy you lunch at both SIA and ASA is my goal.
it's a deal. I think our stories are the complete opposite, Paul.
Okay?
You've been ASA. I was SIA.
Yep.
We're going to do both.
Yep.
You started with a small company. I actually started with one of the largest right out of
I hear
college.
that.
I have the three little bears, right? I started with a
Yeah.
really large company, got talked into in the best possible way going and co-founding, I guess, a regional firm. I opened
Okay.
an office in Tennessee, which is where I'm originally
Great.
from. So I loved every
Okay.
second of it.
Right.
I was only there for 2 years. We were going to build a relationship with another firm in Utah. And I
Okay.
made good friends with that original founder and owner. And so I went and I joined a small firm. And
Fun.
yeah, and so I had all those experiences that led up to me launching Hire Integrated 3 years ago.
That's so exciting. I'm so happy for you. That's great. So you've learned from one of the best, one of the biggest and the best. And I see that you've been doing this for about 20 years now. So
Almost.
you've
Now
you've
that
taken a
ages
very
me.
almost. Is
That
that
ages
almost?
me.
Okay.
I don't embrace the 20-year mark yet. I think I'm like
Nearly.
17, 18. I'm creeping up on
Got it.
that 20-year mark.
Got it. All right. I understand. Well, you're getting there. Nearly 20 years of unbelievable wisdom and experience in the staffing business. That's great. But well, this is great. So you've had a very interesting journey. I love it. From large corporate down to now a small entrepreneurial firm. You are going to be perfect for our audience. And so I appreciate it. Tell us, if you would, a little bit of some of your highlights and some of your lowlights. What's some of the things that strike out in your career of like, wow, that was amazing. I just loved that experience. And then what are some of the ones that's like, well, I got to learn something from that?
Yeah, man, I guess I'll start with the lowlights first because I'm an optimistic person and I want to swing it into an
Yeah.
upbeat. I guess when I did step out into a co-founder relationship underneath investors, it was great.
Yep.
It was a great experience. I'm so
Mhm.
thankful that people believed in me and the
Mhm.
co-founder enough to put up, a significant amount of capital. And we did
Right.
everything perfect day one, right? We had the office, we
Yeah.
had the software, we had all of it. I learned
Nice.
from that
You were set and ready to go.
experience. We were like day one, we're ready to open up shop and we looked like a company.
Nice.
That was a luxury, but I kind of
Yeah.
learned through that experience that I don't really enjoy taking people's money and I don't really enjoy reporting to
Ooh.
people. And
Oh, very, very
I
interesting.
guess I'm coming across really unruly right now and like I can't be managed, which is true if you talk to my husband. But I was like, I'm going to be candid. I don't think opening up a recruiting company, depending on how you decide you
Hmm.
want to structure it, really can
Yeah.
demands a lot of capital. And so unless
Right.
it's a strategic partnership, which I was able
Hmm.
to form through an advisory board, smartest thing I've
Yeah.
ever done in business was form an advisory.
I absolutely agree. I tell people to do that all the time. Very, very nice.
Oh yeah.
Advisory boards are so important.
Actually, I was at the SAA conference listening to Marcus Buckingham talk about
Hmm.
you've got to have your personal board of advisors. And I
Yes.
believed in that and I found my people. And then when I decided, okay, I'm going to open up Hire Integrated, I need a chief marketing officer, I need an attorney,
Hmm.
I need an M&A
Yep.
specialist. And so I just went and I
Right.
plugged my people and they're still with me today.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So I guess glass half empty setbacks. I don't
Yeah.
really want to take other people's money. I don't want to report. I
Yep.
want to have the autonomy to make a decision. And if it
Yep.
fails miserably on my face because of the decision, well, it's my
Yeah.
time lost. It's my money
Right.
lost. And if it's really wildly successful, then I get to reap the benefit of that and decide, how I want to reinvest it.
I love that. I think that's so insightful, Emily. And as you know, I've spent an entire career financing staffing
Mm-hmm.
companies, right? So I can tell you that something that I've seen that takes many entrepreneurs a few times to learn, frankly, it's very universal, is that most successful staffing entrepreneurs are people who want to lead on their own and they don't want to answer to somebody. And frankly, they don't want to be owned by or give up equity in their business. And I find the ones that are most successful have maybe had to learn that,
Mm-hmm.
whether they were taking money capital from friends and family or they were taking equity capital. That is something that I found very universal in my set. I think I financed about 800 or so staffing companies in my career, anywhere from high growth startups all the way up to our largest is a 350 $400 million company. So it's a pretty big range.
Yeah.
Okay. And I would say that the ones that are most successful learn that about themselves, that they really need to own the success or the failure themselves and learn from it. So that's excellent that you were able to learn from taking money and it maybe didn't work out great and do something different. So is that leading into a highlight? Tell me how that
Yeah,
led into your
yeah.
next decision.
I highlight some good decisions. I'm really grateful that I was able to build my social capital and
Yeah.
through other companies, right? When you're
Hmm.
with Robert Half, one of the world's largest specialized agencies, they encourage you to go
Yeah.
out and meet. I mean, back when I was there, I had to meet with at least 10 people in person, decision makers every week in person. And
Right. Wow. That's great. That forces you to make
forces
relationships.
you. And I'm a Tennessee
Hmm.
girl, so everything's over food.
Yeah.
There were some days I would have a breakfast, lunch, and dinner appointment. And, Robert Half got the benefit of that when I was there, but I was
Yeah.
able to maintain those relationships.
Yeah.
Then
That's great.
going out, as I said, through investors and then joining an existing company that had been around 20 years and being able to bring significant growth to that organization, it gave me the confidence I needed. So it wasn't a
Right.
matter of if I was going to open up a recruiting company. It was just a matter of
Yeah.
when I
Just
was
when.
going to open up a
Yeah.
recruiting company.
That's excellent. I love that. Well, you worked, like you said, for one of the biggest and one of the best in the world, right? Robert Half. So how you rose so quickly to the Chairman's Club is absolutely wonderful and fascinating. How did you really create a strategy and execute on a strategy that said you were going to be an overachiever and one of the top 10 producers in that company?
Yeah, I had a turning point. I was
Okay.
really good friends with my manager. I still am. He's retired. I think he's
Hmm.
living in Hawaii. Hi, Rick, if you're
Nice.
listening. I was in, 23, 24 years old. I had just been at Robert Half
Hmm.
for a couple of years. I was good, above average. Okay. I was
Hmm.
above average. And Rick sat me down and said, there's a recession happening. And
Right.
if you are not amazing, you could be impacted. And this isn't just a conversation at this company. This is a conversation
Yeah.
happening all over the place. And this was like right
Okay.
around 2008, right?
Yeah.
2007,
Okay.
2008.
Sure.
Paul, I didn't even know what a recession was. I
Right.
just heard
So this was a real learning
this is
curve
a
for
real
you. But
learning
what
experience.
but how beautiful that your mentor slash
Mhm.
your boss really took the time to be clear with you to help you come up and realize that there may be some big decisions coming up. I love that.
Yeah.
So what did he do next?
Well, I think he's the one that kind of gave me the warning, and then the fear comes out, right? Like, oh, I'm going to lose my job. I am newly married. I have a mortgage.
Right.
Like, I don't want to be fired. And so
Right.
once the fear settled, I remember it as plain as day, Paul. I went home and I had a conversation with my husband, and I was like, look, I'm going to do everything I can. And if
Yeah.
it still happens, then there is no regrets. But at least I can
Right.
say
Good for you.
I did not leave anything on the table, right? Like,
I love that.
I'm going to take it. And that way, if it happens, I'm going to be like, well, there's nothing I could have done differently. I brought exactly what I could bring every day. And
That's
well,
awesome.
yeah, I mean, I kind of turned into a different person. And I think a lot of people there
Yeah.
saw it in me. If a
Right.
client called in with a job order, which was happening fewer and fewer times, I didn't lose it, Paul. I was as creative could be, but I
I
did
love it.
not lose that job order.
That is so exciting to
Yeah.
hear. I love to hear that passion in your voice. You stared down this difficult, situation. You stared down this recession and said, I'm going to let that be the motivator to make me bring the best I can be every single day, didn't you?
Oh,
That's what
yeah.
made you so successful. I
Well,
love it.
yeah, I mean, I was president and chairman's during a recession, right? There was fewer
Yeah.
people, but I was still competing. I mean, there's 14,000 there now, but there was 11,000
Yeah.
producers when I was there. And so
Right.
it was tough. It
Wow.
was tough competition, but
Sure.
I really enjoy people. Like, I get energy from
Yeah. I
people.
can tell.
And
I can
so
tell.
if they're going to give me an opportunity, a lot of people in recruiting always feel like their purpose is they help people find jobs. And that
Right.
is an incredible benefit, Paul, and I'm all here for
Yes.
it. But my
Right.
purpose, I have an executive or a hiring
Yep.
manager or whatever level of person of authority coming to me and saying, I have a problem. I
Yeah.
need you to be the solution. And if you can over deliver and make me look really good and justify this business decision, you and I are going to have a good partnership. And man,
That's
Paul,
great.
I love that challenge. That's my purpose.
That's awesome. I love that. That's exciting. So really to outperform and be able to create that solution for a business that's struggling to find the right staff, that's what charges you up. But I really love how you turned it on during the recession. That is so interesting that you said that, because I've been really speaking a lot about this to my current clients and new prospects and people I talk to in the industry. And I've continued to say, don't read the news and stress yourself about this whole issue of, are we in a recession? Is it going to? Ignore it. Like, some of my best clients have grown and taken market share during these times. And so just get at it. And I love what you said. Don't leave anything on the table.
I love recessions. Number one, as you said, it takes out some of our competitors, right?
Agreed.
It shows people how tough they are. If you can't have a business conversation with an executive about how hiring this person is going to drive revenue, protect revenue, and be multiple, right? A lot of
Yeah.
times during a recession, we go from a lot of the direct hires, executive searches, which you still have those peppered in, but
Right.
our contract and temp staff usually shoot through the roof, and I'm okay with it,
Right.
right? I get
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
They're running really lean and mean. They need to hire, and they don't feel confident hiring a full-time
Yep.
headcount. Their temp and their
I agree.
contractor headcount's going to shoot through the roof, and that's very profitable business.
It's very profitable, and frankly, it creates long-term enterprise value
Right.
in really the contract and temp side, even especially for smaller companies, even more so than recruiting. So I agree with you. I love that. It's the time to perform and gain market share and make those executives, like you said, that are needing a solution really buy into you and your company. So I agree with that. In every single recession, just a little case in point, every single recession, my finance companies have grown over 10% year over year. So it's always been a great time for us to finance staffing companies and provide more capital. I also love the fact that the banks start to kind of, move upstream and leave us to do what we do best, which is not worry about what's happening in the economy. Just give money to good companies so they can pay their payroll,
That's
right?
right.
So I think that's super exciting that we're really, regardless, whether we're in a stagnating economy or it's a recession, just don't leave anything on the table and just keep going. So that's good stuff. Hey, I'm going to switch gears just a
Sure.
bit.
Sure.
I hear that horses are near and dear to your heart.
Oh,
And is
goodness.
it true that you actually own a little stake in a horse or
Yeah.
racing horse or something? What do I know about this?
Yeah, I mean, my husband and I, we love going to horse races. I
Fun.
done the Kentucky Derby, things of that
Yeah,
sort. And so I am not to the status where I can go out and buy a horse race all by myself yet, but I
right.
can go in with a collective and own shares of a horse,
Fun.
a racehorse, which
Fun.
I will tell you the benefit of doing it is if even if you're a small equity owner in a horse,
Yeah.
you get to go backstage. If the horse wins, you
Yeah.
get to go out to the VIP circle. You get to kind of like you get the full
Exciting.
experience. And so if you're going to do the horse tracks, like make
Yeah.
sure you look into it. It's well worth it.
Nice.
Go on.
That's awesome.
Go on.
Exciting.
I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting
Well,
that.
that's good. Yeah, well, I thought I'd throw you a curveball. I think that's great. I mean, it's so fun to be able to see people that are passionate about other things. And, a lot of what we do every day in our business life helps to support those things that really we get so much tangible value out of in our personal lives. And so I love what you just said. You said you don't own a horse yet,
Yeah.
which means there sounds like some ambition in your voice, which I love, right? That ambition, hey, you never know. Maybe you're just going to grow this staffing agency to 400 million and
Just
sell
throw
it.
it all
You'll own your
away
own.
on gambling, not knowing at all what I'm doing. Probably
Oh,
not,
that's so
but we
funny.
can all dream.
I love it. I love it. So interesting. So talk to me about the crossover between the things you've learned outside of staffing over the years and recruiting that's helped kind of inform who you are as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. What are some of the things you've taken and adapted from outside of the staffing companies that you've been with and seen and made part of your own and part of what you do every day?
Well, my professional career has always been recruiting, but I took a 2-year break to have
Hmm.
my son. And I will tell you,
So exciting. Congratulations.
thank you. Being a mom, I think, has prepared me more than being a business owner than anything else ever could. I think a lot of times as a recruiter, I've always looked at people's resumes, and if you see a break in service, you wonder about
Hmm.
the fee eligibility of that candidate, right? I mean, this
Sure.
is the
Right.
economics of the situation. But now, particularly when I see a break in service on particularly a female's resume, I have this instinct where I know that that break in service probably brought more value and perspective and experience that's actually going to help
Hmm.
an employer more than I ever realized. And I think just
Very interesting.
my style of management and recruiting has changed as
Mhm.
a sense of it. You add that, and everyone talks about post COVID experiences, but I think we have a lot more grace with flexibility, and
Yes.
it's the main reason why I named the company Hire Integrated. I expect for this
Yeah.
company to be integrated in every aspect of my life, including being a mom, a wife, a supportive entrepreneur of other women. Like, I want it to really integrate in everything that I do. And the thing that taught me that first and foremost was stepping back from everything and having my son and taking care of him and
That's
getting him healthy and ready
that's
to tackle
exciting.
the world.
Bravo. I think bravo for moms.
Yeah.
And I'm
And
a
dad.
huge believer in that. That's incredible. I have two grown daughters myself, and I now have two granddaughters,
Oh
if
my
you can
goodness.
imagine
Oh,
that.
I would have never
And
guessed.
I appreciate hearing that. Yeah, I don't know. Somehow I still look young. I just turned 50, so I'm still pretty young grandfather, but we're very family oriented and we love that. And frankly, we love to be able to prop up that in our organization, the ability to take time off and be able to experience the joy of having a child and then seeing how that informs the things you do, continuing on in life and find that balance.
That's
It's a
right.
beautiful thing. I think it's something that is very important. Have a lot of fun because mine are mid 20s. My two daughters who are amazing, very successful people and we love being with them. And I got to tell you, it goes very
Gosh,
fast.
we soak
Enjoy
up,
every moment.
we do. We soak up every second, and he's just now kind of gotten the habit where he likes to sleep with mom and dad. And I used to
Yeah,
take him
yeah,
out of the bed, and then he would come back
right.
in, and then I would take him out of the bed. And Paul, I've
Yeah.
just given up in the last couple of weeks, and I'm just like, well, this is me enjoying every minute of motherhood because he's going to be our one and
You're
only.
enjoying every minute of motherhood. I love it. Yeah, it's beautiful. You brought this up about, being finding a way to be able to take that experience and make your business better and make you better at what you do. And I really appreciate that you said that. And I think the other thing too that's really interesting, I don't know if you've seen, I talk a lot about this, about having that work-life balance. Everybody talks about that. But something that is super important to me and something that I have seen be very successful is really giving your all to that time period when you have it. If that means that it's the weekends, or it's whether you were able to cut off at 3 or 4 o'clock, or whether or not you had to work till 6, but whatever, or that time period of giving them
Yes,
everything. And
yes,
I would say that's something that it's a big mantra of mine, both to my friends and my family, business owners that I mentor. Just that ability to say, I'm giving 110% today because I'm at work.
that's right.
And the moment that I go, find a way to be able to cut that off. And I don't know if you found that
Oh,
experience, but for me,
yes.
that's something I'm doing, is finding a way to shut those emails off and be all in for my family time. How do you personally balance that?
Well, I mean, it's in the moment. I don't have work life balance. Paul, there are some times you will talk to me and, I will start at I mean, today's a great example. I had my advisory board meeting at 7 a.m. I had a
Right,
pretty important breakfast at, 9. And it is going to be intentionally a very long day. But guess what?
right.
Tomorrow at noon, my calendar is completely blocked off. And
That's
I
brilliant.
am 100% a mom, and it is the phrase in the moment really is very
Yeah,
differently to me now. I have to be very
yeah.
intentional about saying I need to be in the
Mhm.
moment here.
Exactly.
And I was planning on last night was a great example, not working, but there were a couple of
Mhm.
fires that just brew.
Right.
And I said, you know what? 20 minutes, I'm going to go as hard as I can and get these off of my plate so that I can get
Yep.
back into being a moment of cleaning the house and playing games.
Yeah.
And so
Nice.
it has given me more sustainability where
Yep.
like I can take this next level. Like I can grow higher
Right.
integrated. I can realize what I can do and what I can't do. And as long as I can continue to seek out opportunities that need me the most, where I want to be out the most, and I give it my all, I'm feeling pretty good about things if I can continue to assess.
I think that's fantastic. And you said you don't have work-life balance, but actually I don't agree, because you said something that really is the differentiation, in my opinion, of truly having balance. The reality is, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you've got to give it your all. And it's going to be a lot of work, and it's going to take you away sometimes from your family life. However, you said something that I found is the key to having that balance, which is being all in and incrementalizing your calendar, incrementalizing your time. I think it's absolutely brilliant. You said tomorrow at noon, you're taking off, that's family time.
That's right.
It means you're going to be all in. And yet last night you had to take 20 minutes out of that time, but you were all in, you accomplished that task. So that's very much what I teach in my organization, and for myself. It sounds like we're simpatico there. That's excellent.
Yeah, I that's why I've always gravitated towards the word integrated. I've never been an
Yeah,
8 to
I love it.
5er. I
Right.
realize that every aspect of my life is integrated, and I'm just deciding where
Yeah.
to shift focus and moments. So yeah, we
That's
should
that
hang out
works.
more, Paul, because that's my
Yeah.
philosophy. You're telling me it's
Yeah, I love
yours.
it. Yeah, I love it. It sounds good. It sounds like we met at the right time. So tell me something then. You mentioned that storytelling with your candidate in the center was really important to you, the way of operating your recruiting philosophy. Tell us more about that approach, and how do you really use that to be a differentiator in
Yeah.
the staffing industry?
Oh, thank you so much for asking that question. I'll share with you two things. I had another kind of really pivotal moment in my career where we got the opportunity to work with Netflix. And
Hmm.
they had always outsourced all of their contact centers, and they decided that they were going to build out their first one in-house ever. And I actually learned the value and importance of storytelling through this account. Patty
Okay.
McCord really kind of preaches this in her culture deck. And they live and breathe it through everything that they do, including to how they interview, to how they train their employees, to how their employees interact with
Hmm.
people. It is all about storytelling. And if you kind of rip that down to the more raw core of what I'm saying, it's building a connection, right? Like me sharing
Hmm.
something that's special with you, and Paul, you sharing something that's special with me, and us
Right.
having some relatability in there. So the way
Hmm.
Netflix would interview, particularly these contact center folks, is they would bring them in a round table. They would ask them all a question. And the question, it was usually a really simple question, like, how are you? And everybody would go around the table and say, I'm good. I'm fine. Thanks. Thanks for asking. I'm good. And they're like, no, we are not robots. Like, first rule of working here is you have to be authentic and you have to build a connection. And if I'm going to ask how
Nice.
you're doing, tell me how you're doing. And I remember the person that just aced the interview, their answer was, I was up all night binging on House of Cards, and you guys left me on a cliffhanger, and I couldn't go to sleep, and I'm going on 4 hours of sleep and adrenaline, but here I am, and I'm excited to be here. And I mean, you want to talk about instant job offer on the site.
Absolutely right.
That
I
is
love
how
it.
you take feedback and incorporate it
Yeah.
into like an authentic experience. So
Yeah.
I guess shifting into higher integrated and storytelling being at the core of what we do, to me, the easiest part of recruiting is the skill assessment. You can look at anybody's
Hmm.
resume and say, oh, great, they have this software, they have this industry,
Hmm.
they've worked here this
Sure.
long. That's the easy part of recruiting. I think the magic of recruiting comes down to more the culture assessment. And I need to know the
Yeah.
stories of the executives and where they're headed and what their mission is. And I need to know how those stories impact the stories of my candidates so that there's culture alignment. Those are the very best
Right.
hires that we make at Higher Integrated.
That's an excellent. I really get it now. That makes a lot of sense to me. And really, authenticity in the storytelling means everything. You're so correct. It's what I've seen in my businesses. To the extent that we can make sure that that culture and that authenticity from the top is clearly all the way down to the entry level positions, it really changes the whole dynamic of the business and everything that's going on. So that's thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful, wonderful. I'm sure that's definitely making you very successful in the new business. So you've got a reputation for dealing with high volume hiring
Oh,
challenges. What would you say is your secret sauce for execution?
oh my goodness. So, volume recruiting was definitely my background. I did quite a bit of really large volume accounts. My first one was Morgan Stanley. It always starts with working with an executive of these accounts that's highly empowered to be very
Yep,
maneuverable with you, to go through a lot of A/B and A/B testing, understanding what you're trying to do, and then getting the blueprint so that you can replicate it in
got it.
other locations, other departments. That's been kind
Hmm.
of the trend over and over and over is I have a problem, I want to solve it. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to see how well we can do it. We figured it out. We're going to
Right.
blueprint it and we're going to replicate it. Type of experience.
I like that. I like that. So really, it's the level of engagement of a senior person that can affect change in his organization. So you can really have that working relationship, create the solution together, and then make sure that he's got the buy-in to be able to effectively push it out for the rest of the organization. I think that's great. That makes a lot of sense to me.
And
And then, of course, you got to execute and go find all those great people,
well,
right?
I'm
But
glad
you
that you
sell that because you're selling the story.
that's right. I'm glad that you brought that up because that's really the important part is once you get relationships and you're hiring for all of these companies, candidates need option. Optionality is important. No one should ever take a
Right.
job not knowing about it because they're desperate. And we tend to see this at the more entry level type of hiring. I'm not
Hmm.
doing that personally myself, but yes,
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
in my background, it was not uncommon for an entry level person to show up to a job because they were desperate and they had no idea why they were there or what they were going to be doing. How is this person
Right.
set up for success? So not only should every single person that you're hiring into an organization, because Of course, executives get that, right?
Right.
We
Right.
inform them, we spend months with them, they get to meet everybody. But the
Yep.
further down you go in the hiring, profile, the less that fades, which does not do that person service. It just doesn't.
Right.
So, informing, empowering, making sure that they are taking the job because
Hmm.
they want the job is fundamental,
Right.
the most important thing when I think you're working with a candidate. They want to be there because it was their decision and they want it to be there.
Right. That empowerment of decision, that empowerment of decisiveness, right? And knowing that they owned their future and they knew enough about the story to be able to know that they can impact it and be a part of it and change it. That requires you to do this incredible amount of you and your team to do this incredible amount of learning and being inquisitive and figuring it out and then really translating it really
Well,
to them and keeping it to go all the way down.
actually encouraging our candidates to do that, right? We
Right.
want our candidates
Right.
to have access. Thankfully, it's 2023. Everybody's
Yep.
putting out their story and their message. And so,
Yes.
if we can understand what resonates with them in their job search, and maybe we know that about
Right.
the company, and we introduce and we tell them why we felt like the connection is there, and they go through and
Yep.
validate it through their own research and empowerment,
Right.
that's really what you want to have happen there is empowering them
Excellent.
to do that.
And that's where you really create the synergies. Yeah, I love it. That sounds great. Well, of course, every sector has its unique challenges in the space. Like, certainly there's different within our staffing and recruiting businesses. We have lots of different niche markets. They all have unique challenges. But walk me through how you've approached one of your most challenging markets that you're still trying to be a part of. Okay, so please pick something that you're currently going after. But if you look at one of the sectors of, yes, this is a niche that I'm going after, what were some of those challenges and how are you solving those challenges to really be able to compete at a high level?
Oh goodness, Paul. This is an easy, immediate answer, and I hope I can do it justice to
Yeah.
how things have evolved. When I launched Hire Integrated almost 3 years ago, just in a month, I'll be able to celebrate 3 years.
Congrats. Exciting.
Thank
First 3
you.
years in business for yourself. I love it where it's just yours, your launch. I love it.
Thank you. I was really lucky because I had existing relationships. I was out of a
Yes.
non-compete, so I was able to kind of come out of the gate hot and pick up existing clients that I had worked with that trusted me and enabled me. But through continuing to put the word out and grow, I got introduced to an insurance company. And
Okay.
Paul, like, I've hired so many industries. Like, I was like,
Right.
sure, I can absolutely help you in insurance. Not a big deal. It has been an extremely challenging sector. I know.
Interesting.
Oh, Paul, it's crazy. I mean, there's a lot of supply and demand, problems across every sector, but really
Of course.
insurance is very dramatic in the sense of there's so many more professionals retiring and aging out of the industry, and no one's going to college
Okay.
anymore saying, I want to go into insurance. It just does not
Right.
have.
Who said, when was the last time you heard anybody say, I want to be an actuary, right?
I know, right?
Haven't heard that one in a while.
Yeah, it's really suffering as far as talent development and letting people
Yeah.
know that these are actually pretty lucrative, flexible careers
Yeah.
where you can have a lot of different things be given to you. So the insurance industry has far been the most challenging, and I love a good challenge, but boy, Paul,
I can tell we've only known each other for an hour, but I can tell that you do not run away from a challenge. How are you addressing the recruiting in the insurance business? How are you finding a way to try and adapt an ABC and probably Z test
let me tell
hiring in
you.
the insurance?
So
Okay.
at insurance agencies, there's the producer that embraces the relationships. I identify really well with these folks. They tend to
Right.
be a lot of men, to be very candid with
Mhm.
you. If you were to statistically
Yep.
look, it's a very male dominated position. And
Right.
then back at the office is the account manager. And Paul, the account manager does all of the work. I'm sorry, producer.
Does all the work.
If you're watching, those account managers and those account executives are doing the work. And
Right.
they are maintaining that relationship and that renewal process. And so
Right.
I've been really proud of some leaders that are coming out and saying, you should consider upskilling your career from an account manager into a producer. You're going to increase your earnings. You have the relationships,
Got
you
it.
have the knowledge. And so I think it's just trying to inspire people to see that they can actually contribute to the industry that they're already in. That's kind of the secret that I'm
Very
trying to
nice. Very nice. I've been hearing that as a theme across many challenging markets. The status quo of just trying to find the next person that is already an expert isn't working. You have to be upskilling. You have to have training programs. You have to be able to take people that have like interests or similar talents and be able to really teach them to do something that's moving up, into a different position. So that is a wonderful thing that I'm hearing.
Oh, yeah.
That is very, very common now. It's what are you doing for upskilling? What are you doing to train and bring them into other positions? So good for you.
If you want to start the conversation, I just always ask this question, and it typically goes over pretty well. Do you want to hire someone that's perfect for the job today and is stagnant and stays at that level for the rest of their career? And believe it or not, there are some people out there that need to say yes to that question, and that's okay.
Right.
It's not wrong. Or do you want to hire someone that has the capabilities to be perfect for this job and exceed expectations and grow into new bounds and heights through the progression of the company? Most people are always going to choose the capability to progress beyond the role.
That's excellent. That's really, really nicely articulated. All right. Well, final question. So our listeners, many of them are where you were years ago. They're successful working for somebody else. Mm-hmm. They've got really good relationships. There's something about the staffing industry, recruiting industry, it gets in your skin. Nobody seems to start out in this business, but they get here and they stay. It seems to be very common. But there's many of our listeners that haven't taken the step to take their career to becoming an entrepreneur and start their own business, launch it. For those who are aspiring to grow in their career and really, taste entrepreneurial spirit and start their own company, what wisdom and advice would you like to share with them?
Oh, goodness. Paul, that's such a good question. It was an easy decision for me because I had so little to lose and so much to gain. When you are a top producer, your earnings are well, so I didn't have debt. I'd been doing it for a while, so I knew exactly where my clients were, and I had a great deal of confidence that they would trust me at least to hire one position to see how I would do for them again. But I'm not going to lie. I mean, it has come with sacrifices, right? I mean, We have a small child. My husband's extremely involved, and he went from full-time to part-time to now just doing board positions and serving in ways that he can and still get his fulfillment in his career. So it has come with us really understanding where we're going to make our investment and continue to reinvest as a family. But yeah, I think you have to assess, what do I have to lose versus what do I have to gain? And if you can kind of visualize what you think you can happen, if you've been in recruiting, you're typically a person that knows how to make it happen. So I hope that's a good answer for what you were looking for.
I love that. And you're right. Most of my clients are successful. I mean, it's amazing to me how many take the plunge. They make it, frankly, because we provide all the capital. So, right, really, what do they have to bring? If capital is not an issue, it's just go, develop the business, start dive in, full force, dive in the deep end of the pool, and then make it happen. And so I appreciate that sometimes you just have to assess and just be that, can-do person, stare the challenge down and just go after it. And well, I'm super happy to see your success. I cannot wait to follow your continued success, and I'm thrilled to have met you today. And I really hope I can see how you continue to grow your business and do well and continue to stay connected with you, Emily. And I really appreciate the time you took today to get on our podcast and inspire some of our audience to be able to take the plunge.
Thank you, Paul. Our goal is $5 million in revenue in 5 years or less. So I'm verbalizing it. I'm committing it to everyone I know. We're at 3 years. We've done
Exciting.
1, 2, and 3. So next year's got to be 4, and the 5th year's got to be 5, and we'll hit our mark. So wish us luck.
I am a big fan, and I will be there cheering you along the entire way.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Emily. We will talk soon.
Okay. Sounds good.